It's time for the main event. Here comes the breakdown. Act 1, the setup.
We start with our hero, H.I. McDonough, or Hi for short, having his mugshot taken by the lovely Edwina, or Ed. She's taken aback when he calls her a lovely little desert flower, even though she's screaming orders at him to turn to his right for his mugshot.
I love when he slaps his ass on the way out. A lovely little desert flower.
Hi is escorted to a cell as he explains in a voiceover that there's a camaraderie in prison that you only find in combat, while a fat, greasy, dirty, bald guy mopping the floor growls at him.
There's a lot of, for some reason, shirts with holes in them, specifically like thermals and wife beaters. Why you would ever wear a thermal in Arizona is beyond me.
It gets cold at night.
Yeah.
It does. In the winter, it gets pretty cold. But
I thought in the normal, like, just
certain
night in the
parts.
deserts.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
We don't know when this takes place.
That's
Maybe it's in
true.
winter.
That's true.
We see him in a counseling session in the prison where a large black man says he feels trapped in a man's body because he...
Sometimes I get the menstrual cramps real hard.
Oh, man.
They hired that guy specifically for that voice. There's no way.
Yeah. Next, we see H.I. at his parole hearing where they ask if he's learned anything in prison. He says, "Yes, sir, you bet." And then they say, "You wouldn't lie to us, would you?" To which he says, "No, ma'am, hope to say." Which is enough in the great state of Arizona to let a poor innocent white man out of prison with an "okay then." Hi robs a gas station 10 seconds later, which leads him back to Ed, who's obviously a wreck. She tells Hi through tears that her fiance left her for a student cosmetologist. So Hi tells her to tell him he's a damn fool for leaving Ed before being drug out of the room by another officer. I had to leave fiance in there because it was in the subtitles as fiance.
Yeah. She says it that way too. Like,
Yeah.
my fiance left me for a cosmetologist. Yeah, the toxicologist.
Cosmetologist.
Cosmetologist. Color space.
You, toxologist.
Nice. I didn't get it until you said that. We again see the filthy, growling, bald guy, then the counseling session, then Hi in his cell where his bunkmate rambles on about how
when there was no meat, we ate fowl. And there was no fowl, we ate crawdad. And when there was no crawdad to be found, we ate sand.
You ate what?
We ate sand.
You ate sand?
That's right.
a little bit less than, a little more entertaining than Bubba Gump rattling off shrimp recipes.
For some reason, of all the scenes in Raising Arizona over the years, that has always been my favorite for some reason.
Really?
When there was no meat to be found. You ate sand, we ate sand. See, that's what I mean about the Coen Brothers, just like, it's just this innocuous character who doesn't need to be interesting is fascinating. Mm-hmm. Every character that makes any kind of like appearance in a Coen Brothers film is super interesting.
Especially when a character like Hi can be the straight man for the scene.
Yeah. Woody Woodpecker is the straight man in this scene.
The parole board again lets Hi out with an "okay then" after calling him a repeat offender, and of course he robs another convenience store where he gets busted since he locked the keys in the car. Ed again takes his mugshot, and the corrections officers make sure to point out the Woody Woodpecker tattoo he has on his arm. Then Ed does his fingerprints, and Hi puts a quarter vending machine ring on her finger after asking if she has a new beau. A love story for the ages. It's like a little charm bracelet looking thing. But don't worry, he paid for it. As he tells her.
25 cents.
We then see the old familiar sights of prison again. Growling fat guy, the sand-eating bunkmate who describes how crawdad sounds like popping popcorn if you forgot to put water in the pan when you cook it. But Hi is sad since he finally feels the sting of incarceration now that Ed's waiting for him on the outside. Besides, though, he's only serving 8 to 14 months for what is at least his third armed robbery, as he points out.
I love that when he like tilts his head and then the flash happens again. Like he sees her on the bunk on top of him, taking his picture. Like that's the only like real visual he has of her at that point.
he pleads his case to the parole board once again, and again they let him out with an okay then. High proposes to Ed, and they're married with High side of the ceremony sporting Hawaiian shirts, and Ed's all dressed in police uniforms. They move into a trailer in the middle of the desert where High takes a job punching holes in sheet metal while the guy rambles on about some mother scratcher named Bill Parker, not Bill Robbins.
And me and Bill are patrolling down 9 Mile.
Bill Roberts?
No, not that mother scratcher, Bill Parker.
His job doesn't quite seem to scratch the itch that robbing convenience stores does, but when he gets home to Ed every night, so it's all worth it.
One of my dad's favorite jokes was that
He's got his sandwich in one hand and the fucking head in the other.
Quick fact, H.I.'s work uniform logo shows he works for Hudsucker Industries, which became the setting for a later Coen movie, The Hudsucker Proxy, from 1994.
yeah, 7-year pre-called back. Which is actually one of my least favorite Coen Brothers movies, which is kind of strange. Like that was a fairly decent sized hit when it came out, but I never really loved that one. That one and Intolerable Cruelty were like my 2 least favorite Coen Brothers movies.
I haven't heard of The Hudsucker Proxy, so
it's good. It's even the shittiest Coen Brothers movie is better than almost any other movie out there. So, comparatively, it's a great movie. And Tim Robbins is the star, and he's amazing in it.
Ed says they should have a baby because there's too much love and beauty in the world for just the 2 of them, and every day they keep a child out of the world is a day that kid might later regret having missed. Which I don't think that's how that works, but okay then. It's still a nice sentiment. I like that.
Yeah.
It's poetic.
Okay then.
Sadly, however, Edwina finds out that she's barren, even though she looks as fertile as the Tennessee Valley. They try an adoption agency, but High's checkered past makes that impossible. He stares crazily into the mirror while lamenting that the salad days were gone, since not being able to have a kid made Ed quit her job and basically quit at life. And I looked at the salad days because I didn't know what the hell that meant. It's apparently a Shakespearean term that means like the youthful days, or days of your youth, the fruitful days of youth for some reason.
The good days.
The good old days. Then one day, the couple sees a news report about Nathan Arizona, the owner of Unpainted Arizona, the largest chain of unpainted furniture and bathroom fixture outlets throughout the Southwest. Seems he and his wife Florence have been taking fertility pills, and Florence just gave birth to quintuplets. Ed and High felt it unfair that some should have so much while others have so little, and they decide to steal one of the babies for their own. As you do. End of prologue. Credits roll 11 minutes into the first act.
Yeah.
It's almost halfway through the first act. Just setting up the movie.
Not as far in as Mandy, but yeah. Took 11 minutes to get to.
Yeah. Over at the Arizona household, they hear the baby slamming around upstairs like they're having a baby rave, but the Arizonas, being the attentive new parents they are, just sit in their living room, which is framed like it's in a Wes Anderson movie, and stare at a ceiling while the 5 unattended infants clomp around on the floor above them. Just sitting in their chairs.
You can definitely see the influence that the Coen Brothers had on Wes Anderson specifically, especially early on in their films. They were very kind of color paletted, and they really spent a lot of time on set design and character wardrobe and all that kind of stuff, which is like Wes Anderson's whole life now, which is actually one of the things that I don't love about Wes Anderson's career trajectory is that he's just leaned so heavily into that at this point that it's like, it's not even, it's like, it's more that than a movie at this point.
That's why people go see it. It's just like you're watching a diorama play out with a bunch of famous people from other movies.
Exactly.
Just cameos.
That's what turns me off from his films now.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea.
But that shot specifically, the way that the 2 are just sitting in their chairs, it's just a static frame. Looks like a stage play. Like their living room is just one shot. Really reminded me of a Wes Anderson setup.
Got some real high ceilings in that room too. Which I think was intentional. They wanted to, have them have a whole lot of a whole lot of headroom to look up while the babies are clomping around upstairs.
It's just, they leave 5-8-month-olds in a crib by themselves and slave them.
Why not? They'll take care of themselves.
Yeah. Upstairs, High has successfully climbed through the bedroom window using a ladder. He tries to keep the babies quiet by rocking them and placing them randomly around the room for some reason. Chaos ensues as this human cartoon character tries to wrangle 5 babies. Meanwhile, the Arizonas continue to stare at the ceiling. Quick fact, 15 babies played the Arizona quintuplets in the film. One of the babies was fired during production when he learned how to walk. The mother went so far as to put her baby's shoes on backwards in order to prevent him from walking. You know, if you're going to exploit your kid for a child role, you know, might as well go all the
child
way.
abuse.
Yeah.
Why not?
Maybe she didn't know how to foot bind. Otherwise, she probably would have tried that.
She just hobbled it.
Hobble that baby.
Some misery.
You're going to earn that $250.
And since the movie has suddenly become Baby's Day Out, H.I. chases a baby down the hall, saving it from falling down the stairs. I'd make a dead baby joke here, but those are tasteless and problematic, so we'll leave those in the dumpster where they belong. Jokes about the babies. Although now that I think about it, how many dead babies can you fit? Never mind.
Oh my god.
Mrs. Arizona finally attends to the baby rave to find her 5 children sitting up straight and quietly in the crib, which is impossible, but whatever. It's not going to be 5 kids.
It's kind of amazing that they
sitting.
were able to get those kids to all sit
Just
in a
for
line
that shot,
straight
yeah.
up, staring at the camera. Mm-hmm. That must have taken a long time.
I was just trying to
trying to
imagine
put
the scene
like
with
5 kittens together.
putting the kid down and then having the kid crawl down the hall and have another kid do other stuff in the background. Must have been a nightmare trying to get that stuff set up.
Yeah. Makes for good comedy, though.
Yeah. Hi has left the house and reports to a disappointed Ed that he didn't get a baby because they started crying and they were all over him. And it's kind of horrifying. Which is exactly how Patrick feels about babies.
100%. It was kind of horrifying.
Ed tells him not to dare come back again without a baby, so I guess she's fully embraced H.I.'s criminal lifestyle. High returns after Florence puts the kids back to bed with the best one of the babies, along with the instruction manual, which turns out to be Dr. Spock's baby in childcare. Which was like everywhere
it
in
just
the
keeps
80s.
coming up.
Yeah. Well, it's like
Over and
everyone read that book in the 80s, apparently. That was like the thing.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's like, I got the instruction manual.
Ed hilariously breaks down 5 seconds after looking into the baby's eyes.
I love him so much.
I know you do, honey.
I love him so much.
I know you do.
Back at home, High tidies up the place, hides a Playboy for a second before pulling it out, looking at it, and then hiding it again. He pops on a record and shows young Nathan Jr. around the spacious confines of their single-wide starter home that has the most 80s aesthetic a place could possibly have. Wood panel, everything, and weird... I don't know if it was Formica floors, but some weird pattern on the floors, this green diamond-looking thing, and yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's funny is as I was watching it back this time, I really started to notice a lot of weird parallels between it and No Country for Old Men. Like that trailer feels very similar to the trailer, the Llewellyn's trailer. And then there's a lot of like little parallels with like driving down the desert highway and like I don't know. It just it had a lot of things that reminded me of each other this time around. Because I think because I'd watched more of No Country for Old Men the last few years.
I wonder if it was like that was part of why they were picked to adapt it, or they wanted to adapt it. I don't know how that movie came about. If it was something they wanted to do, or if a studio approached them to adapt it or something. But it's a good fit too.
I wonder why they didn't do The Road.
Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Didn't want to do a soul crushing.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that one. I haven't read that book either because I heard it's just super depressing.
So
it would hit different for you now, Nigel. It is a good book. It is dark, and the movie is a good movie, but it's dark too. But that's mainly because it's visually very dark and it's hard to see shit at times. But I thought it was actually a pretty good adaptation of the book. What's his name?
Cormac McCarthy.
No, the actor, Lord of the Rings guy.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yes, he's perfect in that role. You just know he already smells bad, so it just comes through perfectly.
It's an incredible film, but it is heartbreaking and really depressing. And honestly, that's what I think humanity's heading towards if things don't change, is the road. That's the most realistic apocalypse movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's good. I would definitely recommend reading the book and then crying for like two to 10 hours.
Yeah, I read through
just crying.
I read through No Country for Old Men in like 2 days. It was so good.
Jesus.
It's fast too. It's not a long book. It just reads. The way he writes is just really fast. It's like you're watching a movie in your head. Like his stuff seems really easy to adapt into movies because of the way he writes.
Yeah, his writing is like you said. It just plays out as a movie in your head as you read.
All right, enough diatribing.
Back to the funny.
Although this movie came out in 1987, I was born in 1987, and I lived in a trailer for the first 2 years of my life. So my house was probably exactly like their house. From what I remember, the aesthetic was very similar. So
I had a lot of family members who lived in trailers, and I lived in a trailer when I was little. Identical. I mean, I don't know if they were just carbon copying them like on an assembly line.
There's not very many designs.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
The bar top with like the pole on the end of it, the faux wood paneling everywhere, the layout exactly the same of like probably at least a dozen different trailers that I've been to, that exact same layout of kitchen, living room, bathroom, bedroom, like exactly the same. My mom lived in an identical trailer to this one. I think ours
was like a mirror image of theirs, but it was the same layout. They set Nathan Jr. on a couch everyone's grandparents owned in the 80s, and they stare at the baby lovingly before High exuberantly says,
What are you kidding? We got us a family here.
And they take a nice little picture straight out of the awkward family photos. We're ready to pop here, honey.
I love that picture so much.
Yeah. Captures parenthood.
Yeah. And the 80s. It's just...
We cut to High's buddies Gail and Evel, who we met in the opening during the counseling sessions, escaping from the prison screaming from a muddy hole like a couple of Golgothans. For the uninitiated, that was the shit demon from Kevin Smith's Dogma, FYI. They come out of the ground like... So, I never saw this movie before. I did catch part of it on Comedy Central years and years ago, and it was this scene where it came back from a commercial break, and I didn't know what the fuck I was seeing. Just screaming and climbing up out of the mud.
It's a good spot to catch it.
Twisted birth scene, you know?
Yeah, it reminded me of that scene from Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. He's coming out of the rhino's ass.
Yeah. They later parody this, and I think American Dad has a parody of it. The boys escape from like a summer camp or something, and they do the same thing.
It is shit that they're crawling out of. They said that the
sewage line. Yeah. Something about a birth metaphor. I don't know. This movie's about parenthood and whatever. I don't quite know what they're going for.
I thought maybe they were going for something biblical in that, but I don't. I researched it a little bit, and I couldn't find anything.
There's
specific.
another, there's lots of myths where like humans were made out of the clay of the earth stuff, and they come out covered in mud too. And to me, it seemed like a birth thing. Like they climb up out screaming, and then he pulls the other guy out by his leg. You know?
He's like holding William Forsythe up by his leg. Like I know John Goodman's strong, but he's not that strong.
Yeah. They escape the sewage-soaked soil like Andy Dufresne escaping the shit tube from Shawshank Redemption, then Brill cream up like a couple of 50s greasers in a gas station bathroom. They steal a station wagon and head straight for High's place, where Ed is not exactly over the moon to see a couple of escaped convicts covered in shit who could potentially draw the police straight to their trailer. But High's pretty stoked about it. It's his buddies.
It's his buddies, yeah.
John Goodman
I don't get the sense that he has a lot of friends, so... Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gail and Evel.
Yeah, you make them in prison, and prison's for life.
A great night just got better. Problem, baby. Now my buddies are here.
John Goodman and John Les Goodman get a tad bit suspicious about. They look like brothers. It's great casting. Just looks like a younger version of John Goodman. Oh man! They get a tad bit suspicious about the baby, and they question who wears the pants in their relationship when Ed tells them to leave. So Hai tells him they can stay a couple of days to assert his authority. That night, Hai has a dream about his future role as the Ghost Rider. I mean, some burly demon biker from hell who blows up bunnies and with grenades, shoots lizards with a shotgun, and sets fire to flowers as he rides past them. Like the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Or one of the demon bikers from Mandy. I don't know. It's one of it's a prophetic dream either way.
Yeah, touche.
Hai fears he himself unleashed this monster by stealing the baby, and knows this vision of pure evil will soon be heading straight for him. During his dream, he sees Florence, Arizona screaming when she finds Nathan Jr. is missing, and the camera flies in from outside straight to her screaming mouth. Quick fact, the shot in which the camera moves in on Florence, Arizona, discovering that Nathan Jr. is gone, is a direct homage to The Evil Dead, a film which Joel Coen was an assistant director on. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Good fact.
It's crazy to think like the powerhouse of like Hollywood superstars who came out of that weird, shitty movies, like shot in a little cabin in the middle of the woods.
It's so influential for such a low budget. Like, But yeah, it was definitely like a point of view shot of the camera going up over a car and smashing up through a window. It's just like Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Hai wakes up to Ed singing Nathan Jr. a lullaby called Down in the Willow Garden. A quick fact, the lullaby that Ed sings to Nathan Jr. is a folk song about a man sentenced to death after brutally murdering his fiancée. Fun song for all the boys and girls. Don't murder your finance kids.
Street. I never knew the history of that song until this show. And,
I'd never heard the song, but I was like, this is a super dark song to sing for a kid, but that's Coen comedy.
Oh, he makes the comment in the moment of like, it's hard for little creatures, after having the dream about the biker killing all the little creatures, and she's singing that song to the baby, and then he says it's hard for little creatures. So it's like he's getting the meaning behind the song that we, for years I never even paid attention to really what it was implying, like what that song was about. It's pretty fucked up to sing to a baby.
The world is too cruel for children.
Yeah. Kind of true.
Act 2. It's about time we had some conflict, wouldn't you say?
Nathan, Arizona wakes up to the press at his front door. He tells them that he thinks the kidnappers took Nathan Jr., but he can't be sure because, well, quintuplets. Then a reporter asks if the baby was abducted by a UFO. Oh, Arizona, you crazy state. Oh, man.
Yeah, it does legitimately feel like something a news reporter might ask in Arizona.
I believe it. Thankfully, Nathan
I'm not
is
shitting on Arizona, but I have never had a good experience in Arizona.
Really?
I've been to Arizona like 3 times and been pulled over twice. And and I broke down in the middle of the Arizona desert, and a cop came up and frisked me. Didn't offer any help, didn't offer to drive me into town or anything. He frisked me, ran my license, and then took off. Like, dude, I could have used some help. But, whatever. Gotta go profile some people.
Hey, at least you got touched.
I'm only in the middle of the fucking desert.
It's like, there's miles from anything. And I'm like,
I'm going to die out here.
Anyways, so I have a grudge against Arizona. So
I've only had good times there. But I think I've only been once, so.
It's the Phoenix airport.
That is where I flew into. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous. Air conditioned. Amazing.
It was awesome. Step outside, hot as fuck.
Like a stucco carport in the middle of summer. The whole state.
Thankfully, Nathan is able to use this tragedy to let everyone know it's still business as usual at Unpainted Arizona. I mean, he does have 4 more kids, so can't be that upset. And those toilets and bathroom furniture aren't going to sell themselves.
He also doesn't really know which kid got kidnapped. He thinks it's Nathan Jr.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, how are you supposed to know?
I will say that the babies all look very different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For quintuplets, they sure don't look alike.
Yeah, true. The cops take Nathan's fingerprints to distinguish them from the I knew I was going to do this. Okay. The predator showed up. The cops take Nathan's fingerprints to distinguish them from the perpetrator, but they'll somehow come up with nothing despite the fact that H.I. wasn't wearing gloves and his fingerprints are definitely on file since he has a rap sheet a mile long.
And we saw them fingerprinting him multiple times.
Yes. Oh, Arizona.
Bit of a plot hole there, but that's, they do say that like Leonard later on says like a cop couldn't find a hole in the ground or whatever, a hole in his ass or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it was intentional and they were just making a remark that they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's like 30 of these stupid cops walking around his house, like eating his food and
dirtying everything up, which is not what you want to do.
Precursor to the John Benet Ramsey case.
Oh my god!
Cops ruining the crime scene, like traipsed in and out and messed up the chain of evidence and fucked everything up.
Yeah,
small town Boulder cops. I took a forensic science class at high school and we talked about how they completely fucked that up.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Parents did it. Then he says the baby was wearing jammies with Yodas on them. Nigel? Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
I do have a Baby Yoda outfit for the baby.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had a Baby Yoda outfit. I do have a Baby Yoda outfit. Wear my diaper and everything in it.
Also, the baby wasn't wearing jammies. He was just wearing a diaper.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Dad doesn't know shit.
All diapers, yeah. He's a great father, I'm guessing Nathan leaves most of the parenting up to Florence and hasn't spent a second with the kids since he saw them through the window in the NICU.
And Florence leaves all the parenting up to the crib that she just leaves them. It sits with Nathan.
I mean, it is a better parent than Nathan.
Yeah,
Crib is.
True.
It's weird. It's like he seems like he's not even really that upset at the beginning, and he's not like the loving father that he shows himself to be in the very last scene of the movie in these early scenes. But
yeah,
it's interesting.
Kind of
weird. I kind of took it as he's in shock.
Yeah,
just kind of like just doesn't know what to do. This is the first time he's ever felt powerless, probably.
Do you think after this, I guess this is a couple of question, but like, do you think afterwards he ends up loving that baby more than the other four? Just because?
Nah, he probably hates it because it let itself get kidnapped. That's weak. You'll be the janitor at the store. I can't trust you.
He hates him because he came back. Like he doesn't even want all 5 kids anyway.
Yeah, he was partly relieved once he realized, I only got 4 kids now. Nathan freaks out because the 50 idiot cops don't seem to have a clue where to start looking for the missing baby, and rightfully asks why they're all sitting around making a mess in the one house in the state where he knows the baby isn't at. Over at the prison, the cops inspect the hole Gail and Evel came out of, and suddenly, High's nightmare biker shows up. Turns out he's a bounty hunter who tracks the pair to the gas station bathroom. They stopped in to grease their hair by smelling the burro cream they bought at the gas station. Not really sure where that cream came from. Did they bring it with them?
I don't know.
Smuggled it out.
I guess they could have had it with them at the prison, and they brought it with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was like. So how did he track them from the prison based on the smell of the brill cream that they bought or stole from somewhere else?
Well, maybe they left tracks to the gas station, and then while he was there, he saw the Brillo cream, and then he smelled that, and then he got their scent from that.
That makes sense.
Or he swallowed the scent of the sewage, maybe because it smelled like shit.
Oh, touche. You know what? That's probably actually pretty accurate.
Yeah. See, that's why I like doing this show.
Quick fact, viewers who pay attention will notice the abbreviations POE and OPE on the door of the gas station restroom where Gail and Evel wash up after their prison break, which is a reference to the recall codes from Dr. Strangelove. Did not know that until Patrick.
I wondered what that was about.
Homage. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it had to be intentional.
Kubrick.
Yeah. You down with OPE?
Yeah, you know me. Back at Ed and High's, Gail and Evel stare creepily at Ed and the baby while eating cornflakes like pigs eating slop. Gail asks why Ed isn't breastfeeding the kid while milk dribbles down his chin, just to make her even more uncomfortable. And she tells him to mind their own business. High wakes up and Ed makes him tell the boys to leave for a few hours since they're having some decent friends over.
I love that he's like, some damn good cereal. It's just cornflakes.
It's just cornflakes.
They're complimenting Ed's cereal.
Was it like, damn good cereal flakes, Miss Madonna?
Yeah.
High tries to skip out and they get together and knock back a few cold ones with the wanted fugitives he's harboring, but is overruled by a scout from Ed, which I think we've all been on the receiving end of one of those scouts before.
100%.
100%. H.I. puts on his best pair of slip-ons and a polo to greet their distinguished guests, Glenn and Dot, who are somehow trashier than Gail and Evel. They all have they have 5 hell-spawned children who make a great first impression by scratching and beating the shit out of High's car.
Get away from Mr. McDonough's car!
Then smashing up the living room and scribbling the word fart on the wall with crayons. Glenn tells High a few expertly crafted Pollock jokes, which are even more off-color than dead baby jokes. Which reminds me, guys, how many dead babies does it take? Wait, no, never mind. I think we all agreed not to do those jokes anymore.
I love when he's like, how many pull-outs does it take to screw in a light bulb? 3.
I told her right.
Wait.
This is the punchline.
Why does it take 3 pull-outs to screw in a light bulb? Because it's so damn stupid. I love this because the pull-out joke thing was such a popular thing back in the 80s, and it's funny to have the stupidest character in the whole movie think that he's super smart by doing these horrible jokes.
Glenn is a real piece of shit, but a super great dad. He lets one of his kids spray High's crotch with a squirt gun. He then has a little fun with his boy, Bufford. He's scribbling. Buford. Is it Buford? Oh, sorry. He then has a little fun with his boy, Buford. Bufford. I figured it'd be something stupid. He then has
Buford is pretty stupid.
Buford's a beautiful name. He then has a little fun with his boy, Buford, who's scribbling fart on the wall by chucking some M&Ms at his head. You know, the kind of father we wish we all had.
I love Nick Cage's reaction to that.
Some throwing High's candy at his kid. Assuming
it's
that's
the most
their
genuine moment from High. The entire movie is his reaction to him chucking M&Ms at that kid's head. Think fast.
Think fast.
He's the smart one. He already knows his ABCs. Fart.
F-A-R-T. He asks High how he got the kid so fast. He explains how he and Dot tried to adopt because he's shooting blanks after kid number 5, and the adoption agency would only give them a couple of Korean kids or a black kid born with his heart on the outside of his body. High says Ed had a friend at the adoption agency, which seems to make bonehead Glenn suspicious, even though he doesn't seem to be smart enough to button his own pants. Later, Dot tells Ed about the shots Junior will need while making mustard sandwiches.
So gross.
It's like a scene out of Vacation.
Yeah. These felt like even worse Cousin Eddie and his wife.
Yeah. Those Jello
really
molds all over the place.
Oh, God.
Mustard sandwiches.
High stares at one of Glenn and Dot's kids who's smashing some Jello while sporting an eye patch, which she throws in High's face. The Jello, that is, not the eye patch.
See, that's the moment where he's like kind of starting to feel a little trapped by family life. Oh my God, this is what I have to look forward to.
Yeah, it's all crashing down. High and Glenn walk through the desert, and it's obvious that H.I. is in full panic mode at the horrible mistake he's made bringing home this kid, since he's clearly never going to be the superstar dad Glenn is. Glenn tells him another Polish joke, while High asks him if he's ever felt trapped by his family life. He says he feels a heavy weight pressing down on him, to which Glenn says he knows that feeling. Well, because he's told Dot she needs to lose some weight. I love how they just paint this guy into I love how they just paint this guy into being like this absolute piece of shit. There's no redeeming qualities to Glenn at all.
What's funny is like Ed is a police officer, and like she regards these people as like the decent people. Yeah. not like the police officers that she worked with for years. It's these morons.
Well, it's because they got 5 kids.
These are her role models. I guess.
Because she wanted kids. So.
Glenn then tells High he knows the perfect way to bring the excitement back to his life by swinging with him and Dot.
What am I talking about?
I'm talking about sex, boy. What the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about l'amour. I'm talking to me and daughter swingers, as in to swing. I'm talking about wife swapping. I'm talking about what they call nowadays open marriage. I'm talking about...
I would have suggested maybe a session with the crocodile, but that's just me. So Hai punches him in the face, thus answering the prayers of everyone who's ever come in contact with this dude. He runs straight into a cactus running from Hai. I don't know about you guys, but I was sure hoping he'd die right there in the desert.
Save the world from a few more Pollock jokes.
Later, on the way to get diapers, Ed says that they finally met some decent people, and Hai just has to go and break his nose. I'm guessing Ed has had a hard life if she considers Dot, Glenn, and their horde of crotch goblins decent people. Apparently, Glenn is Hai's foreman, so he'll probably get fired now. To rectify this, Hai does the most logical thing and decides to rob a convenience store, since old habits die hard.
You would think that the guy who was talking about Bill Parker was his foreman, but no, it's Glenn.
That was just his coworker.
Yeah. No, not that mother scratcher. I use that all the time still. Like, no, not that mother scratcher. I love this. See, that's another, like, he's in 2 scenes and they're both just, like, amazing. That guy's, like, there for a couple seconds, and that's the brilliance of the Coen Brothers, man.
Yeah, they have these great one-off characters. He heads into the store, pops a pair of panties on his head, grabs some Huggies, and pulls a gun on the cashier, who promptly pushes a button to alert the police. Ed hears the sirens, then spots Hai robbing the store. She calls him a son of a bitch through the window, so Hai tells the kid to hurry up since he's in Dutch with his wife. She peels out, and Hai is left between a cop car and the store clerk sporting a gun that would put Dirty Harry's to shame. Actually, now that I think about it, the gun kind of reminds me of Diesel's gun from Dog Eat Dog. But I bet this kid ever blasted some cokehead in an abandoned Coast Guard base after falling through the floor onto a bunch of dead bodies.
Yeah,
I said bodies, okay? Not babies.
Yeah, the kid's too busy reading Jugs.
Maybe if Diesel would have done that, Mad Dog would still be alive.
Yeah.
That gun is gigantic. I don't know if that's like a 44 Magnum. That thing is huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Just like the founding fathers intended. Right? Don't you question it.
That kid is
like God-given
another
right.
Another character who's like I don't even think he spoke, but he still had like a whole identity of his own.
Yeah, I don't think he spoke either. I think he just pulled a gun on him, and then
he's super memorable somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know what the secret is, but
he loves porno magazines and big guns. All right.
Yeah, true American hero.
Man.
Yeah,
just a simple man. Hai runs down the street after Ed with the Huggies still sporting the panties on his head, while the cops and clerk shoot at him from down the road. He drops the Huggies since he's being shot at and takes a quick left turn through a yard with a Rottweiler/Doberman. We'll let Nigel be the judge, which eventually leads to a chase almost shot for shot from the sandlot after the dog breaks free and joins in on the chase.
I thought you were going to say it's like the backyard chase and Gone in 60 Seconds. Like, not everything's color-coded in this one.
Made me think of that.
I felt like I've hammered enough on Gone in 60 Seconds, so I should probably just ease off of it to stop torturing you guys. Ed has a change of heart and heads back to save Hai, who gets run over by a screaming farmer in a truck. He then jumps in with the driver, who expertly delivers the line,
"Son, you got a panty on your head."
Before they speed down the road directly into the clerk with the hand cannon. They swerve to avoid him, then run straight towards the cop car. They flip around and speed away from the cops before the driver slams on the brakes, throwing Hai through the window into a yard. Always wear your seatbelt, kids.
This whole sequence is just amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is like a cartoon.
Yeah.
And this whole bit.
Yeah, it really does. It does remind me of your stereotypical cartoon chase. Just
hijinks
and craziness.
It's an old writing trick when you hit the midpoint of your story to just have somebody kick a door down and then come in shooting, so to speak. Just spice the action up, Perfect example is this scene, like right in the midpoint of the movie, just having this like wacky hijinks just come out of nowhere.
Chase. Yeah. High runs into a nearby house with a cop and an entire neighborhood of dogs in tow. Then to a grocery store where he grabs some more Huggies. The cop shoots at him in a busy grocery store, nearly killing several innocent bystanders screaming for their lives. Nice to see nothing has changed since the 80s, boys.
I love it that like when they enter the grocery store, the music turns to the overhead the elevator music. It's like
the subtitles even say Muzak. Like in little closed captions have a little music symbol and say Muzak playing.
Attention to detail, man. It's so good.
Yeah, I love that too. It's just a nice touch that these guys have in all their films. High escapes the cop only to cross paths with the stampede of dogs, then has to change direction again when a guy from the meat department pops up with a double-barrel shotgun, which I guess he just keeps in his locker at work.
Yeah, man, it's the only way you stop a bad guy with a gun. You got a good guy with a gun.
Well, you got a lot of crazies running through your grocery store, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, it is Arizona. Probably everybody in the store had a gun.
Well, maybe High's tried to rob this store before.
Touche. Yeah. And this butcher's like, not this time.
They said this was actually a functioning Safeway that they filmed this whole thing in.
It looks so much like a Safeway.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. High is then cut off by a cop, so he chucks the Huggies at him, busts out the back door, and runs smack dab into Ed. She punches him in the face and asks why he's committed armed robbery with a baby in the car. High says, it ain't armed robbery if the gun ain't loaded, which, life pro tip, is 100% not true, by the way. High directs her to the Huggies he left on the road as they argue and tells her to accept him for who he is, because Nathan Jr. does. Makes sense.
Yeah, you can rob a store with a squirt gun if they think that it's, a credible threat. You're getting armed robbery for it.
Yeah. Yep. Back home, Gail and Evel are drunk as hell watching some kind of weird-ass musical on the tube when Ed bursts in and tells them they need to leave first thing in the morning. Is there a bad influence on High?
There's like 20 beer cans around them.
That's amazing. It just cuts from this wacky scene to them just like staring dumbfounded at the TV with beer cans everywhere. Just like,
It's audience insert.
So good.
Gail theorizes that the cause of Ed and High's marital strife is probably financial, to which High says he lost his job after breaking Glenn's nose, even though technically Glenn broke his own nose by running face first into a cigarro.
Saguaro?
Yeah,
Is it saguaro? Cigar or saguaro?
Sicario.
Sicario.
Serpico. Cigarillo.
Saguaro.
To which High says he lost his job after breaking Glenn's nose, even though technically Glenn broke his own nose by running face first into saguaro.
Ziggurat.
Saguaro. Cigar?
Cigarello.
Credits.
Sacramento.
Glenn and Evel decide to invite H.I. on a little score they've been cooking up. They plan to rob a bank since the counselor at the jail told them they need to think bigger. Your tax dollars at work. They also say he needs to stop robbing convenience stores and pull a big job like the people they saw on the news who stole Nathan Jr. He contemplates doing the robbery since he's a jobless criminal who is no good for Ed or Nathan Jr. We cut between the evil demon biker on the road and High while he writes Ed a goodbye letter. He writes that he'll never be the man she wants him to be, nor the husband she deserves. And he'll probably bring her and Nathan Jr., the baby they kidnapped together like yesterday, trouble.
This is all her idea, you know?
I know. Yeah.
He was just the instrument to enact her plan.
Right.
Because he's an idiot and he just went along with it.
Because he loves her.
I don't even think High ever wanted the baby. She was the one who wanted the baby the entire time.
Yeah. That's why he has that breakdown.
Yeah. That's how it works in life.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's getting personal.
Nigel, you want to tell us something?
Did you steal those Huggies? We see the demon biker arrive outside of High, and in Ed's trailer, but rather than bust down the door and bring Gail and Evel to justice, he heads to unpainted Arizona, where he tells Nathan Arizona he knows where his baby is. You know, he's got to do some shopping before he goes and brings them to justice.
How did he know that the baby was in it? Because I don't, like, did he go
You
up
hear
to
the
the trailer?
baby crying.
He hears the baby crying, and he knows that means that it's the kidnapped baby, I guess, even though he's tracking
The breakout.
Evel and what's his name?
Gail.
The two good ones.
Gail and
Evel.
He's like 300 yards away from the trailer and heard the baby scream.
Well, he's obviously a supernatural force of nature, so whatever.
Yeah.
Just go
Also,
with it.
have you ever heard a baby cry? You can hear that thing through fucking 10 feet of concrete.
Yeah, walls in those
but how
trailers
can
aren't
you
thick.
distinguish each baby
How does
cry
he?
from the
And
other?
how does he know that's the kidnapped baby when he's tracking
He just knows.
two other guys?
This is his profession.
I also like
Would you
that-
question it if Dog was there? If Dog the bounty hunter showed up and told you that he knew?
Well, Dog's got Jesus on his side, so that makes sense. I also like I like that High's note that he writes is like multiple pages because he writes like a kindergartner, like giant words.
It's like a paragraph on 6 pages. He says he'll bring him back for $50,000 and will give the people who took him a good ass whooping for no extra charge. He tells him his name is Leonard Smalls, but his friends call him Lenny. Quick fact, Leonard Smalls is named after Lenny Small, one of the two main characters of the book/play of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck.
I don't know why specifically they chose that, but
But
I guess it was
nothing
just
like that
a
character.
fun little homage to Mice and Men.
I mean, he's a big guy, I guess. That's
Yeah, he's a
where,
big guy.
and he kills rabbits. So
Actually, you know what? That's actually a good point. Okay. It's a little
That's
bit of a
the
stretch,
best
but okay.
explanation I've ever heard.
That's pretty good.
it's a deep cut.
But I guess I know for me when I was a kid, Of Mice and Men was kind of like one of the first things that made me want to potentially write something. Like
I thought you were going to say
maybe-
because of Mice and Men.
Read that a lot as a
You
kid.
wanted to kill rabbits.
the rabbits, George.
You read Mice and Men a lot when you were a kid.
I mean, when I was like preteen was like when I first read it, and I loved that book when I first read it, and I still do. So maybe it was the Coens, kind of maybe it was their entrance into writing as well as. So I don't know.
I can see it.
Yeah, and obviously
They just wanted to pay homage to
They could do a good.
John Steinbeck.
They could do a good Steinbeck adaptation. I would think.
Oh yeah.
Some Steinbeck
Sure.
books.
I feel like most of the time though that they like to put their own spin on things, and I feel like Steinbeck would be kind of hard to Frankenstein into a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But they did adapt Cormac McCarthy and make him an incredible film. So
and that didn't really seem like they put too much of their own stamp on it.
No,
They did and they
I haven't
didn't.
read that book. Yeah, I haven't read that book, but just knowing.
No, the movie is very similar. It's like it's weird. When I
kinda
watched
felt
it, it was
had
weird.
to
It was
be.
like I'd already seen the movie when I watched it for the first time because I read the book, and it's just such a great. I would say shot for shot adaptation, but it's not because it's a book. But it's page for shot adaptation, I guess.
That's crazy. Nathan says he thinks Lenny is an evil man and is most likely the one who stole Nathan Jr. after Lenny catches a fly in midair. Side note, I'd pay Lenny $50,000 to snatch all the flies out of the damn office I'm in. It's wintertime and these bastards are still alive. I don't understand how. There's a ton of them. They just won't die.
Well, they come indoors during the winter, so they probably get worse as the season turns.
It's gotten so bad. I
start Mr. Miyagi and I'm out of
Gotta go.
With some chopsticks.
Go leave a review on Yelp if there's too many flies
In the office. He goes to call the cops, but Leonard Batmans himself out of the room, leaving only a nasty slobbered on cigar in his wake.
Then and you hear the motorcycle revving like he's already out and gone. I don't know.
I guess if you look at him as like a supernatural being of some sort.
Yeah.
Here's the blueprint
makes
for Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men. I did get that vibe as I was watching. Like, he's the same kind of thing. Like, Anton Chigurh is like a force of nature.
He also kind of reminds me of Randall Flagg from The Stand, from Stephen King's The Stand.
Yeah.
Just like this supernatural entity that always seems to show up no matter what's going on there. No real explanation for his powers.
Act 3, The Resolution.
High wakes up face first on his goodbye letter, his multiple page goodbye letter. I love how this just the scribble, man. It's just so perfect for his character. To Gale and Evil sporting shotguns for the big heist. They tell him Ed has left for town and the baby's asleep in the crib. Which I was like, why? So Ed just left these two assholes to watch the baby?
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so they say that they're fine to just take off and go do the job that might end up with them getting killed. I guess this bank isn't very far away because they don't drive super far to get to it. So I guess they could have gone and done the job while the
small
baby's
town,
sleeping.
Everything's pretty close together, maybe. Nobody is a good parent in this movie, so.
No. Glenn knocks on the door and High tells the boys to stay out of sight. Glenn has a neck brace on and a bandage on his nose from the saguaro cactus that he ran into. He tells High that he's fired, which we kind of assumed that he was going to fire High, and that he's in a whole shitload of trouble since he knows they were the ones who stole Nathan Jr. before he hacks a loogie on the ground.
Now you're at my mercy. I'm your worst nightmare.
Just after he finishes talking. Those little details, man, that's what really makes this movie so great. He says he wanted to turn High in for the reward, but Dot wants the baby, so she has something to cuddle. Like, even the like rational person in that relationship seems like a real piece of garbage. These are real decent people.
Yeah.
Glenn takes off and High heads inside, where Gale and Evil have overheard the whole conversation, and since you can only find camaraderie like prison life and combat, they decide to steal the baby to get the reward.
It's like Glenn's car has a sticker that says, "Warning, I drive naked," on it. I don't know if you saw that. It's a sticker on his window.
I think it also has a Mondale. Mondale for president sticker on it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Gale and High fight while Evil hides in the bathroom with the baby, but their battle is hilariously plagued by the pocket-sized confines of the trailer. H.I. scrapes his hands on the popcorn ceiling. Gale busts through a window when he cocks his fist. He swings High around, knocking down the bar top and throws him through the paper-thin walls. It's just nonstop incredible, that fight.
This shot also felt very Evil Dead as well.
Yeah.
Like, this scene felt very Sam Raimi, like low-budget chaos.
It also feels like a cartoon, especially like when High's legs are just like swinging around. See that shot? Evil and Gale tie H.I. to a chair and he falls over after hilariously struggling. But Gale comes back for the instruction manual. The old doctor's box. High screams as they take off with the baby, which echoes throughout the Southland. Ed passes them on the road as they leave and is excited that they're gone, but that excitement is quickly ruined when she gets home. Nicolas Cage delivers the best monologue of the film to a vacant Ed who stares off into space, unable to accept what an absolute idiot her husband is. He reassures Ed that everything will be all right while loading every gun in the house and saying that he's a changed man, that she was right and he was wrong, before cocking a shotgun and saying,
So let's go, honey. Let's go get Nathan Jr.
Gale and Evil have some bonding time with Nathan Jr. on the road, where Gale says he loves to drive. I also use that line all the time, like when I'm driving on the freeway or something.
I love to drive.
And Evil learns that babies need more than just one diaper for a road trip. He has a similar reaction to looking in Nathan Jr.'s eyes as Ed did, saying,
Gale? What now, little brother? Smiled at me.
which causes him to instantly fall in love with the little tyke. It's funny because they basically take on the role of Ed and Hi right after they take the baby. They're like, now we're the surrogate parents.
Yeah, it's one of the things I liked about this. Is the baby just disarms everybody with his charms, and everybody falls in love with him.
Yeah. Evel asks an old timer at a store how to put diapers on, then wants to know if some balloons he found blow up into funny shapes. The old timer says,
Well, no, unless round is funny.
I love that line too. It's like,
Me too.
just those little, side characters adding so much to the film. Usually they're just innocuous, these little moments where they're interacting with some side character, but like in a Coen Brothers movie, every single person creates some sort of magic. Then he robs this poor old guy and tells him to lay down on the floor and count to 825. And that he's going to come back in 5 minutes and check to make sure he ain't cheating.
Evel ever ask him how much he lost in a coin toss?
It's another like reminiscent moment.
Yep.
Gale and Evel take off with Nathan Jr. in his car seat on the top of the car. It takes them a second, but they realize Jr. isn't in the car, so he must have fallen off the roof. And they're kind of making a getaway, so they must have like sped off super fast.
Yeah.
Poor baby. Just a load of brilliant people in this movie. They scream in terror at what they've done, turn around and head back for the baby, screaming the whole way while John Goodman punches the dash and flips out like Chris Farley. I got to assume that Chris Farley probably saw this performance and started I think he embraced John Goodman's vibe from this movie. Not to say that Chris Farley didn't create his own thing, but I think he saw
Just like a high energy, cartoonish.
Well, the high energy was from the Coke. But
Too soon.
Too soon, bro. Oh,
John Goodman was the foundation for his character.
Or Belushi. Belushi was.
Yeah, probably more Belushi. Mix of both of them.
Yeah. Which you should never mix two substances together. Just
never cross the streams. What did Dr. Clay?
Never cross the line.
Yeah. Never cross the line.
A major faux pas.
That's still one of my favorite lines. But only when Nigel says it.
So good. I love that character.
Junior's just fine, sitting in his car seat in the middle of the road, contemplating baby stuff. Just kind of looked around. He's just fine. Somehow
Arizona sun.
Yeah.
Somehow
didn't
seems like
die
it's not
from falling off the
too
roof.
hot yet. It's early morning still. So it should be like 70 degrees.
Yeah, right on the asphalt.
Yeah, right. He's sitting right on the road.
The baby would be cooked and we can't make dead baby jokes. Sorry.
Yeah, scratch that.
The old timer gets to 769 Mississippis before calling Evel's bullshit. He stands up and then spots the car coming back. So he goes back to counting again. Those little details. Bullshit. And then he stands up and immediately sees the car coming back. Gale and Evel almost run over Nathan Jr., this poor kid. But they're relieved to find him safe and sound and promise each other to never give him up again. So they've already fallen in love with this baby after 15 minutes of being around it.
Yeah.
Ed dons her police uniform as they head towards the bank Gale and Evel said that they plan to rob, while Hi tries to think of something to say to console his devastated wife. She cuts him off almost as soon as he starts talking and seems to have come to her senses over this whole kidnapping thing. She says she doesn't care about herself anymore. She just wants to get Nathan Jr. back safe. And if they do get him back safe, she doesn't want to go on living with him. She says she's not too proud of herself and that they don't deserve Nathan Jr. any more than the fugitives do. We cut to the biker walking into Hi and Ed's destroyed trailer where he sees fart written on the wall and seems perplexed. Bends down and then looks up at the fart on the wall. That was a really great callback. Then he finds the newspaper clipping about the bank that Gale and Evel plan to rob. So that's how he tracks them there. Over at said bank, Gale and Evel run in with guns and Nathan Jr., where they tell everyone to freeze and get down on the ground. A farmer asks,
You want ice, it freeze or get down on the ground. Mean to say, if I freeze, I can't rightly drop. And if I drop, I'm going to be in motion. You see?
Shut up!
Okay, then.
eventually he has them get down on the ground, and then Cale freaks out because the tellers are all gone because they're on the ground. Starting to see why these guys are always in prison.
They did the Furpo brothers a run for their money.
One of the tellers puts the old classic blue dye pack in with the money, while these idiots are arguing about code names or something, and they head out to make their getaway. But they again leave the damn kid on the roof. This was the first time I ever remember seeing the blue dye pack thing in a movie. And I was like 5 or 6 the first time I ever saw this movie. So I wonder if this was one of the first movies to show that, or if other movies had done it in the past, but I don't remember ever seeing it before this, and I've seen it a million times since. Just as they're about to head back to once again retrieve the kid, the blue dye pack explodes in their faces, causing them to swerve all over the road and almost directly into Hi and Edwina. There sure isn't a lot of traffic in this stretch of the desert. It's just them. There's nobody else on the road.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured they lived on the outskirts of Phoenix.
I think it's supposed to be Tempe.
Tempe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a small town out there. Lately, parts of Arizona have developed, but for the longest time, it was pretty scarce outside of the major cities like Phoenix and.
Yep. Nothing but trailers and graboids out there.
Yeah.
I bet there's some stretches in Nevada that were like this, where it's like you don't see a car for miles and miles and miles. Mm-hmm. So makes sense. Ed and Hi pull guns on them and take the baby book back. They head back to the bank to find poor Nathan Jr. in the middle of the frickin' road again.
He seems fine with it.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
He likes it.
Yeah. During this entire scene, we see like a cop car kind of on its way to the scene, which I think was coming for the robbery.
Yeah.
But the cop car gets to the bank, but blows up off screen. And then the biker from hell himself shows up, which I had a question about. Like,
why did he blow up the cop car?
Did he kill a cop? Like,
yeah, I can see implication.
Yeah,
like, I know he's a bounty hunter and shit. Like, he just killed a cop to get to a baby for $50,000. Yeah. I guess that's one of my big questions. Is like, did the cop die, or did he just like stop the car? And, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I just know there was the explosion. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He had to stop the cop from coming to the scene, I guess, so that he could impart justice. Ed and Hi see the biker on the horizon, and Hi asks if she sees it too, which she does, which kind of answers the question that I had of like, is the biker just a figment of his imagination throughout the whole thing? But Ed sees it too in this scene, sees the biker as well. So I guess it's more like he might have created the biker out of his own imagination. Yeah. Somehow, magically. I don't know.
That's what he says, yeah.
The biker grabs Nathan Jr. out of the road, puts him on the front of the bike, and then blasts the front window out of Ed and Hi's car. He heads back to dole out some evil biker justice on them by throwing a grenade in the car, all while Nathan smiles and laughs like Baby Yoda on the front of a speeder. That's for you, Nigel.
Thank you.
Kind of has that same feeling of like the laughing and smiling the whole time.
Baby Yoda enjoys the love, the danger, enjoys the reckless life. Nathan loves it.
Which he does say later on, I wonder if we broadened his horizons by this. So maybe. Hi and Ed escape the car, but the biker heads back to finish the job after the car blows up. He tries to run over Hi, but Hi grabs his leg and then is pulled cowboy style across the hot Arizona pavement for a bit. Which is like, he would have had a real bad day after that if this wasn't a cartoon character. Mm-hmm.
They dragged me out of the payment, see? All I wanted was to get the baby back. Yeah, that's right. Get the baby back.
Call back to the best movie in the whole season so far. Ed boldly heads towards the biker saying, "Give me that baby." And just before he can chuck a couple of knives into her head, High shoots him in the hand, causing it to catch fire.
Yeah, like he's the Ghost Rider.
Did he shoot through his hand and inside the biker is fire?
Yeah, he's
or
a demon.
did it just go across his hand and then start his
I think it's
glove on
supposed to be
fire?
he has fire for blood or something. Like he's a demon. So
Yeah. So I guess it, goes back to he's a supernatural being of some sort.
Yeah.
Ed takes off with the baby, but the biker gives chase, chasing her straight into the bank where the farmers inside tell her to get down on the ground, little lady. I love that. It didn't need to be there, but it just adds so much to that.
Yeah, it does.
That little line just thrown on top. She leads him down a wooden walkway and High hits him in the head with a 2x4. The biker is slightly irritated now, so he throws a knife at High, which sticks in the board, and then High coughs like Peter Lowe after ingesting some cokehead blood for some reason.
yeah, what the hell?
Does that same just kind of thing that he does in Vampire's Kiss. Which, I guess it's because he's in pain from being drugged on the ground.
Yeah, I didn't know why.
I don't know.
It came out of nowhere.
It's just so
trying to
random in
distract
that.
him or something.
The biker Mortal Kombat scorpions the board away from High and then belts him in the face a few times, causing H.I. to spit a tooth in his face. High escapes under a truck, but is drug out by Leonard, who gives him a good old-fashioned bear hug. That scene of him being drug out. I don't know why in this whole final scene he has one eye closed through the whole thing, but it's such a hilarious face that he has through the whole final battle here. High fumbles around with the biker's jacket, which reveals that Leonard has the same Woody Woodpecker tattoo as High on his chest. Which I guess also goes back to him inventing this character.
Yeah.
This is High's evil side, and maybe he's getting rid of his evil side somehow here, and he's going to go on the straight and narrow after this. I don't know. I'm sure
that sounds plausible.
There's some symbolism here, but I don't. That was one of the critiques of this film was you're not really sure what's real and what's not real, and and it kind of blurs the line between surreal and a real story, and critics weren't exactly sure how to feel about it.
That's one of my critiques of it as well.
He lets him go and then belts High a few more times before H.I. reveals a ring in his hand from one of the grenades on Leonard's jacket. They make eye contact and H.I. says, "I'm sorry," before Leonard blows up into a million filthy, smelly pieces. Which, did he actually blow up? Because he's fire inside. Maybe he's it's like T-1000. He's going to reassemble again after this.
Maybe it's like D&D rules where if you kill a demon, they don't die. They just go back to the
maybe
the
to
hell
be
dimension
unleashed
or wherever
again.
they came from, and then they come back.
Yeah, so if High re-embraces his dark side,
Yeah, he could come
potentially the demon biker will come back again. Next, we see High and Ed putting Nathan Jr. back where he belongs, in his crib at the Arizonas. Nathan Sr. catches them in the act and shoos them away from the crib, where he is relieved to find his son has been returned. He asks Ed and High if they're in with Smalls. The guy who rides a Harley, dresses like a rock star, and smells like shit. I added that last part. I'm just assuming. He's got shit caked on his face.
Mm-hmm. He gets dirtier and dirtier too.
Describing Meatloaf.
High says that's who they saved him from, and then asks about the reward. So he's totally turned a corner. He's on the straight and narrow now. Nathan Sr. then leaves a loaded gun in the baby crib with Nathan Jr., who accidentally shoots
back,
himself.
Who accidentally shoots himself?
Oh, wait, no.
Hey, he's got 5 of them now. You could lose one.
Yeah. He just crawls over and just shoots himself with the gun. Which reminds me, what's the difference between a dead baby and... Oh, wait, no. Not doing that anymore. Ed says she doesn't want the reward. She just wants to look at Nathan Jr. one more time. Nathan Sr. then figures out that these are the two who stole the baby in the first place. He decides not to call the cops since there was no harm done to the baby. He just wants to know why they did it. And Ed says it's because they can't have one of their own. Nathan says they just need to keep trying and hope medical science catches up with them. And even if it never does, they've still got each other, which I'm sure is exactly what she wanted to hear. Just keep trying with this person you can't stand anymore. Hi says they're planning to split up because Ed thinks they're both selfish and unrealistic, so they aren't too good for each other. He says they must have their good points since they didn't sell the baby on the black market or whatever. And he tells them to go out the way they came in and says they should sleep on it before splitting up. That night, Hi has a dream where he sees the future. Gail and Evel return to prison. Nathan Jr. opens a Christmas present of a football from a kindly couple who prefer to remain unknown. Glenn tells a Polish motorcycle cop a Polak joke, which doesn't go over very well. Then he sees Nathan Jr. as a football star, and finally about he and Ed being visited by their children and their grandchildren in a land not too far away from Arizona, maybe Utah.
He's thinking big.